In the last 24 hours, a lot of insane news has come out, to Google admitting that they were silencing content creators and Americans on YouTube, and then went out of their way to say that they want to commit to actually reinstating and uncensoring the content creators that they hurt many, many years ago, to also having Michigan introduce a law called HB4938 that would pretty much fine you for using VPNs. Any adult content is completely restricted, AI, ASMR, manga, and even depictions of trans people, and then also you'll have 24/7 surveillance of all internet traffic. Obviously, this is very draconic. This is a crazy bill. I personally don't think this is going to pass, but it is still very important to bring attention to. But before we get into this one, I do think that we need to talk about the whole situation with Google and YouTube censoring content creators, because obviously, I'm a content creator. I'm someone that uses YouTube to make a living. I make videos on this platform, so I think it's pretty important to discuss stuff like this, especially bring attention to it for those that are completely unaware, especially when YouTube and Google have admitted that they want to reinstate channels that have been harmed by their actions over the years. So let's get into what this actually is. So this is Legal Mindset. He is an individual that is very well known in the content creator space. He is a lawyer, and you might recognize him from big content creators talking about him in the past, especially with the Roblox situation as of late. Like, I believe Asmongold has mentioned Legal Mindset. I know Charlie Moist Critical has mentioned Legal Mindset. He's very well known, and I think a lot of people that watch these different content creators are going to instantly recognize him. So when he comments on this situation, you know for a fact it's legitimate, it's not a lie, it's not misinformation, it's being, truthful. And I think that it's very important to note that there has been censorship on the platform for a very long time. And I think a lot of us have been very well aware of censorship on YouTube. I mean, you have random algorithm shifts, you have shadow bans of comment section, you have people that randomly are doing very well and suddenly they just completely drop off out of the algorithm in a way that seems like YouTube is silencing them. I mean, let's think about the whole Real ID age verification conversation that was happening about a month ago. Anyone that started talking about that, their entire channel started to do very poorly, or in this case, a lot of their videos didn't do as well after that. It was very apparent there was something going on behind the scenes. And then when you have the recent controversy with the whole viewership drop with restricted mode, and a lot of content creators, even like Josh Strive, having to make a whole video discussing what's going on, you know, it's a pretty big deal. YouTube and Google is very well known for censoring content and removing people for arbitrary reasons. So I don't think this really comes as any surprise when we find out something like this. However, what is the biggest surprise about this entire situation is that Google and YouTube admitted to censoring content creators. And so let's actually read what was said here so we can kind of get the whole picture. Google admits censorship under Biden, promises to end bans of YouTube accounts of thousands of Americans censored for political speech. Washington, D.C. Today, thanks to the oversight of Chairman Jim Jordan, Google commits to offer all creators previously kicked off YouTube due to political speech violations on topics such as COVID-19 and elections an opportunity to the platform. Now, I do want to outline that this is only the stuff they admitted to censoring. There could be a list of other things that Google and YouTube are not even outlining here that are just left in the void that we'll probably never know about. But the fact that they censor one or two topics does mean that they could censor other things that we're completely unaware of. It, actually breeds suspicion on what other things that we're completely unaware of that has been removed from the conversation table on these platforms. The Biden administration pressured Google to censor Americans and remove content that did not violate YouTube's policies. That's a pretty big deal. Basically, you have the government, the United States government, go around YouTube's policies and force content removal to censor it despite them not breaking the TOS. That's actually insane. That is crazy, because that means that it's so arbitrary. You have the government that could pick and choose what is censored and what is not. If they want you gone, you're gone. End of discussion. And I think that is very scary, and there is some serious implications of that is probably hurt so many content creators that might not have even discussed stuff that, Google and YouTube are even admitting in this statement. The Biden administration's censorship pressure was unacceptable and wrong. Public debate should never come at the expense of relying authorities. The company will never use third-party fact-checkers. Europe's censorship laws target American companies and threaten American speech, including the removal of lawful content. These major omissions come after Chairman Jordan's subpoena to Google a year-long investigation into the company. Now, if you don't know who Jim Jordan is, basically this is the individual right here, and he has been making statements on this for a while, and it dates back basically to November 30th, 2023, where he talks about the YouTube files and how, the the White House was censoring content for Americans. This is a long time ago, as you can see. It was a few years back. So it's definitely something that's been actively ongoing investigation, and finally we're getting information about it. But let's get into the statement today that I think is very important. So with Jim Jordan, he made a follow-up today with all this information coming out. And you have Google actually outline kind of the stuff that happened or what was changed and stuff. And I think this one is a pretty big deal here I want to read. The COVID-19 pandemic was an unprecedented time in which online platforms had to reach decisions about how best to balance freedom of expression with responsibility, including responsibility with respect to the moderation of user-generated content that could result in real-world harm. Senior Biden administration officials, including White House officials, conducted repeated and sustained outreach to Alphabet, aka Google, and pressured the company regarding certain user-generated content related to the COVID-19 pandemic that did not violate its policies. While the company continued to develop and enforce its policies independently, Biden administration officials continued to press the company to remove non-volatile user-generated content. As online platforms, including Alphabet, aka Google, grappled with these decisions, the administrative officials, including President Biden, created a political atmosphere that sought to influence the actions of platforms based on their concerns regarding misinformation. It is unacceptable and wrong when any government, including the Biden administration, attempts to dictate how the company moderates content, and the company has consistently fought against those efforts on First Amendment grounds. No matter the political atmosphere, YouTube will continue to enable free expression on its platform, particularly as it relates to issues subjected to political debate. Political debate and discussions are in the public's interest, which is why YouTube's expanded its approach to educational, documentary, scientific, and artistic content on the platform. In contrast to other platforms, YouTube has not operated a fact-checking program that identifies and compensates fact-checking partners to produce content to support moderation. YouTube has not and will not empower fact-checkers to take action or on or label content across the company's services. YouTube also began offering a feature on YouTube beginning in June 2024 that allows users to add notes to provide relevant, timely, and understandable context on videos. The pilot is available on mobile in the US and in English, and YouTube continues to collect feedback on the feature. YouTube also features an extensive comment section where viewers can comment and share their views on content posted by creators. Even though they say this type of stuff, by the way, they effectively have it to where you can no longer see dislikes and stuff. And we've all talked about this, many content creators have talked about this, but the reason why dislikes were removed is because it was to protect these big companies from looking bad. So, I do not like how sus or shady or two-faced Google and YouTube is being right here, because they're lying through their teeth. We know for a fact that they have been actively censoring content creators and stuff for a very long time, to how you're able to remove comments entirely on videos, to how dislikes are completely hidden just to protect big content creators or big, companies within Hollywood and stuff, or political officials. It's very obvious that this is just a straight up lie, and YouTube has been censoring stuff for a very long time. That's not even getting into like the whole restricted mode on content that people are completely unaware of unless they go out of the way and find out about this information. So yeah, this is just straight up lies from YouTube. Anyways, the company terminated channels for repeatedly violating its community guidelines on election integrity content through 2023 and COVID-19 content through 2024. Today, YouTube's community guidelines allow for a wider range of content regarding COVID-19 and election integrity. Reflecting the company's commitment to free expression, YouTube will provide an opportunity for all creators to rejoin the platform if the company's terminated their channels for repeated violations of COVID-19 and election integrity policies that are no longer in effect. YouTube values conservative voices on its platform and recognizes that these creators have extensive reach and play an important role in civic discourse. The company recognizes these creators are among those shaping today's online consumption, landing must-watch interviews, giving viewers the chance to hear directly from politicians, celebrities, business leaders, and more. So, more or less, to summarize 24 here, Google is like, okay, the reason why we're doing this changes is because obviously it's what's going on a certain political party is not good, especially what happened to a recent individual. So it's very obvious that Google is more or less just changing sides because it suits them better. They're, turning coat, putting on a different mask, different outfit, because once again, there's more money to be made with siding with this side now than the other side. That's more or less what's going on. Google and YouTube isn't really on your side. They will change at the drop of a dime if it means that they can make more money and look better to the actual public. But then we have this. The committee has taken important investigation steps to highlight the obligations under laws such as the Digital Service Act and Digital Market Act, may stifle innovation and restrict access to information. These laws place a disproportionate regulatory burden on American companies. Now, they're talking about, I'm assuming, the UK, what's going on in Europe, and also UK. And the company has long expressed its concern about the risk that the DSA may pose to freedom of expression within and outside of the European Union, depending on how certain provisions may be enforced. The DSA could be interpreted in such a way as to require Alphabet and other providers of intermediate services to remove lawful content, jeopardizing the company's ability to develop and enforce global policies that support rights to free expression and access to information. The DSA may open avenues for substantive regulation of lawful speech, including through risk mitigation, the use of codes of conduct and crisis protocols, and the out-of-court dispute settlement mechanism. Alphabet remains mindful of these risks and continues to be vigilant in its defense of these rights. So, to basically summarize this big word salad of number 27 here from Google itself, they more or less are saying they are against what's going on in Europe and also in UK. They don't like how these governments are forcing censorship of political speech, free speech, and all that, and trying to remove videos and content from other American companies. Google pretty much makes a hardline stance saying they are against it, and I'm going to say good for them. However, I'm going to once again reinstate this. The only reason why Google is actually doing this is because they were subpoenaed. They had literally a subpoena against them thanks to Jim Jordan requesting them to give over this information. So I don't think Google or YouTube would have ever admitted this if it was not thanks to this going on behind the scenes. So I do want to keep that in mind, that what they're trying to say sounds good, but in reality, Google and YouTube don't really care. They're just in it for how much money they can get and what side is the better winner in this case, and that's exactly what is going on right now. But yes, at the very least, publicly right now, YouTube and Google is saying that they are against what's going on in the EU and also against what's going on in UK, so that is a good situation, honestly, all things considered. So with all that being said, let's actually get into what this overall means. First off, I do think that in general, this is good news that Google and YouTube admitted it, but it now brings a level or an air, an atmosphere, so to speak, that there is probably more content that we're completely unaware of that Google and YouTube has silenced and censored. Definitely, 100%. If they can do this, then they have done it in the past. They've already been doing it. And I think that there definitely needs to be an investigation continued with this because it's unacceptable, especially when you have governments intervening in this and basically forcing Google to spread propaganda or certain things on their platform, which is kind of messed up, especially when they're censoring one side. I think this is really bad. I think that just seeing everything tied together with, you know, what's been going on in the last few months with all the censorship to gaming, artistic freedom, freedom of expression, all that is kind of wild. It's like, these last few months have just been crazy, dude. It's just one thing back to back. If it's not like collective shout and activist groups doing something to Steam and Itch or payment processors or DSA within Europe, to having the UK Kids Online Safety Act or the actual Online Safety Act within the United States, and then multiple states passing these different draconic laws or trying to pass these draconic laws to censor the internet. It's just ridiculous, man. There is an attack on all fronts on the internet, and it's scary. Like, this is honestly some headline news that is kind of crazy to me that not a lot of people are talking about. Like, this is a big deal. Like, this is an extremely big deal. And I know a lot of people might not care about politics or anything like that. I fully understand that. But why this is so important is that this is freedom of expression and viewpoints. And if Google can censor this, if YouTube can censor this, the line doesn't stop there. It will trickle down and get further and further. It's the same situation with gaming and adult tags that are getting banned on Steam and Itch and stuff. If you allow censorship to happen and you allow these governments to intervene and take your rights away from speaking certain things, then it will trickle down to eventually stuff you truly do care about. That is why I think it's very important to shine a light on this and talk about this, because it is very important. This is more important than anything else I can really talk about, because this affects everyone. This affects expression within speech, art, shows, everything. It's not good. This is not good whatsoever. So I'm glad to see more conversation around this, and there needs to be more conversation around it. I hope big content creators actually talk about this, and with Legal Mindset covering this, I want to bet you probably Charlie, aka Most Critical, and Asmongold eventually will probably cover this topic. Now, let's segue over into the Michigan stuff. So this Michigan stuff is wild, to say the least. This is the bill right here, House Bill number 4938, and if you scroll down here, you can actually see where they mention the bans of stuff right here. They literally talk about sound clips, live feeds, artificial, stories, magazines, erotica, they talk about manga. So yeah, this is not misinformation. This bill legitimately is trying to outlaw VPNs, it's trying to outlaw manga, it's trying to outlaw fan service within anime and manga, ASMR videos in general, which is crazy. It is so draconic that this bill that was introduced, the Michigan bill proposed, that I'm just like, this is actually insane. And this isn't the first time we've seen one of these bills already enter into these different states. I mean, New York City has one, obviously Texas, I know Florida does, Tennessee, a bunch of different states. I think there is less states that have these bills introduced than states that do have them introduced or trying to get passed. So this is some pretty scary stuff. This is continued progression of censorship. So on one hand, you have YouTube or Google trying to do the right thing, but on the other hand, we have behind the scenes many different states introducing these laws, trying to neuter and destroy the internet, which is not good. So yeah, keep this in mind. My recommendation, if you live in Michigan, contact your local representative. Talk about how you are against this. You don't like what's going on here. It's completely unacceptable to outlaw and ban stuff like this. This is ridiculous. Just, obviously, that's the only way to really counter this. Contact your local representative. Contact your local senator, because that is the only way to bring attention to this and potentially stop it. But if you want my 2 cents, I doubt this is going to pass. I really doubt. And the reason why, it is way too ridiculous, way too crazy, way too draconic. There's just... I would be absolutely shocked and horrified if this actually passed. If it did pass, it would be instantly challenged by the Supreme Court and stuff. I do not see something like this ever officially causing people to go to jail or fining and stuff. But regardless, the fact that it's within the House or trying to get passed, so to speak, I think is a pretty big deal. I will leave it at that, though. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Leave a comment. Helps with the algorithm. Chibi out.